Welcome back for my second installment in this D23 concept art series. And while my first video focused on Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom and its new Cars Land, in this video, we're heading west for real to the Disneyland Resort to break down all the details in the concept art for Walt Disney: A Magical Life. This is Disneyland's new audio animatronic show that features an animatronic of Walt Disney, and that's going to debut next year just in time for the park's 70th anniversary. Now, if you're a Disney World fan, you don't know much about Disneyland, hang with me anyway because I found some details in history in this show that's going to be relevant to Walt Disney World guests as well. So I chose this particular D23 announcement and its concept art because even though it's not a ride or a land, it's still a huge deal. And if you've been watching my videos for a while, you know my opinion about this particular concept has evolved significantly because when it was first announced, I wasn't sure I liked the idea. And I think my issue is that while Walt Disney is famous, he never embraced the persona of a celebrity. So having him as a theme park attraction just wasn't sitting right with me. But now my opinion has changed, and much of that is due to how Disney is handling this show. So according to Disney, Walt Disney: A Magical Life is going to be what it would be like to drop by Walt's office for a talk, which I just love. And for those of us who grew up admiring Walt Disney, this is a chance for us to get our own encounter with Uncle Walt. And for new fans and new generations of Disney Park guests, they're now getting their own very special introduction to Walt Disney himself. But what really won me over is what I found in the concept art. So in this piece revealed at D23, we get a great look at the set for the show, but what's really cool is that this isn't a recreation of Walt's formal office, but rather his personal private office. Walt had two offices in Burbank, and one was formal again, and the other one though is where he really did most of his work, his private office. And I like that Disney is giving us access to this office because again, it's going to be more intimate. It's going to be Walt being himself, and it's also really cool because this room is where he planned Disneyland, and it's where the idea for audio animatronics came to be. So talk about a full circle experience. It's also where he worked on television shows, key movies like Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella, and it's also where he worked on his ideas for the Florida project, Walt Disney World. The fixture in this concept, apart from Walt himself, is this map of Disneyland, and it's actually a recreation of the same map that hangs in Walt's private office today. It's the map that was up on the wall when he passed away, and is believed to be from 1965 to early 1966. So this tells us the timeline for the show, and it's actually going to be Walt towards the end of his life. I hope that means it won't be too sad. But what's really interesting, though, is that this time period was one of the most exciting and groundbreaking for Disneyland, Imagineering, and Disney parks in general. So, for instance, the little red and yellow tags under the map, they list both new additions to Disneyland Park and coming additions. And they include peak Keystone Disney Park rides, such as the Haunted Mansion, which at that time was going to have 1,001 happy haunts, not 199. Also New Orleans Square and its Pirates of the Caribbean Adventure, as it was called back then, and It's a Small World. So how amazing is it that we're going to hear from Walt at Disneyland about these rides right before they were going to open? Next to the aerial map, you'll see a photograph of Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, and that's incredibly meta because Walt Disney: A Magical Life is going to be located in the Main Street Opera House, which is where Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln plays today. And this show, in fact, will eventually be in rotation with Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln later on after the show makes its debut. And in fact, the map on the wall has a tag and a line noting that Mr. Lincoln was operating at Disneyland during this time period, and it even showed where it was located. Over on top of the cabinet or that shelf, we see a plane. Walt had 2 planes on display in his office, but I'm pretty sure this is going to be Mickey Mouse 1. That is the plane that Walt used to fly over Florida. So again, like I said, Disney World fans, this show is relevant for you too. Walt also had photos of the plane's interior on his bulletin board, which is represented here for the show. Above that is a brochure for Cal Arts, but this is back when it was originally planned to be located at the Golden Oak Ranch. Then to the far left, that map is actually one of the original concepts for Epcot, the Florida project. And that's interesting because this was Walt's next big dream at that time. Now below that, we have a stack of papers and a report from Card Walker that's been pinned to the bulletin board. And then switching over to the right side of the office set, we of course see the Walt Disney Studios water tower out the window, but below that we have a large bag or briefcase, and this is actually still in Walt's office today, and it's reportedly what he would use to carry home all the scripts he was reviewing. Now let's talk about the Walt figure. If you look closely, it seems like he's wearing either a tie or a tie tack from his favorite retreat, which was Smoke Tree Ranch. And I read a report that the animatronic is actually wearing one of Walt's ties and a pair of his shoes. I have not heard that from Disney themselves, so I want that verified before I report it as fact, but it is a possibility. As for the figure itself, he's reportedly going to stand up from his desk and then come share his life story with us. And following D23, it was reported by Fortune's Brian Stelzer that Imagineering is using new techniques for Walt's hands and his skin in order to be more lifelike. But the best part, my favorite detail, is that they're going to be using a special light to draw out a twinkle in Walt's eye. Imagineering is also going to be using actual audio clips and footage of Walt Disney to create the audio for this show, and that's another example of how Disney is trying to be as authentic and show the real Walt as much as possible. Now, I'm sure Disney has dozens of other touching details to share with us about this show and this groundbreaking animatronic, and I think we'll hear about them in the coming year leading up to the 70th anniversary. And I'm hopeful this means that Disneyland's 70th will be even more Walt-centric than in years past. But I'm going to make one quick prediction. I think we're going to hear the Feed the Birds song from the Sherman Brothers at some point in this show because it was Walt's favorite song. The brothers would come and play it for him at his office. And for Walt, the song encapsulated what he believed life was really all about. So if they do include it, I think it again can make the show a real tearjerker, but I don't know why they wouldn't include it given its importance to Walt and that it actually was heard in his office. Still, I'm hoping the show will end on an optimistic note. I would love if it ended with It's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow. What a great way to bring that song back and a Sherman Brothers song back into Disneyland. We'll just have to see. But that's all I have. That's all I found in this concept art. Again, I'm really excited to see what Disney has to share in the months to come. But if you notice something new in this video, in this artwork, and if you love Disney Park news and analysis, I would so appreciate it if you would consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. I still have several other D23 related videos on the way, including future installments in this concept art series. But regardless, thank you so much for listening and watching today, and I hope you have a magical day.